You talk because you're insecure. You explain because you're weak. While you beg to be understood, quieter men are conquering rooms you don't even realize you've already lost. You are trained to believe that speaking equals strength. From school debates to workplace meetings, from social media posts to relationship arguments, you were rewarded for visibility. Raise your hand, share your thoughts, clarify your intentions, defend your position. You internalized a fatal equation. The more I explain myself, the more powerful I appear. It is a lie. Every word you release is a fragment of leverage surrendered. Every explanation is an admission that you require validation. Every defense is a confession that someone else has the authority to judge you. The loud man believes he controls the room because he fills it. In reality, he is reacting to it. Watch him closely. When challenged, he rushes to clarify. When accused, he over-explains. When misunderstood, he panics and increases volume. More words, more details, more emotional energy. He thinks he is asserting dominance. He is bleeding information. Power is not measured by how much you say. Power is measured by how much you do not need to say. The loud man fears silence because silence exposes him. In quiet moments, there is no applause, no reassurance, no immediate feedback loop to soothe his ego. So he talks to avoid discomfort. He fills gaps to escape uncertainty. But those gaps are where hierarchy forms. In a negotiation, the first man to rush into explanation reveals his insecurity. In conflict, the first man to defend reveals he feels threatened. In relationships, the man who must constantly clarify his intentions signals that he fears losing position. Speech is often not communication. It is self-protection disguised as confidence. You believe you are being clear. What you are actually doing is negotiating against yourself. When you explain excessively, you provide ammunition. When you justify your decisions, you lower your perceived authority. When you argue to be understood, you accept the other person as judge and jury. The sovereign does not argue for permission to exist. He allows misunderstanding. This is the shift you must absorb. Silence is not absence. Silence is pressure. When you remain composed and say less than expected, you create psychological tension. Others begin to project. They fill the void with their assumptions, their fears, their interpretations. They reveal themselves, trying to decode you. The loud man chases clarity. The strategist allows ambiguity to work for him. Consider a room of 5 men. One speaks constantly, offering opinions on everything. Another speaks rarely, but when he does, the room listens. Why? Because scarcity creates gravity. If your words are constant, they are cheap. If your words are controlled, they carry weight. You do not need to shout to dominate. You need to remove the need to prove. Most men are addicted to being perceived as intelligent. They interrupt, they elaborate, they demonstrate. Knowledge at every opportunity. They mistake intellectual display for authority. True authority does not display. It selects when to reveal. Understand this clearly. Talking feels powerful because it reduces your anxiety. Silence feels dangerous because it increases it. And that is precisely why silence is superior. If you cannot sit in silence without scrambling to justify yourself, you are not sovereign. You are reactive. You are controlled by the room's energy rather than shaping it. The loud man thinks he leads because he directs conversation. The quiet man leads because he directs attention. One leaks control. The other accumulates it. This chapter is not telling you to become mute. It is forcing you to confront an uncomfortable truth. You speak too much because you are afraid. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of being underestimated. Afraid of being ignored. But power is comfortable being underestimated. Power is comfortable being misunderstood. Power does not rush to correct perception. It waits. The first illusion you must destroy is this. Visibility is dominance. No, visibility is exposure. The man who masters silence does not disappear. He becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability is the beginning of quiet victory. Silence is not passive. It is an active disruption of expectation. Human beings are prediction machines. They scan tone, posture, words, reactions. They calculate outcomes based on patterns. When you follow predictable emotional scripts, defend when accused, argue when challenged, explain when questioned, you become readable. Readable men are controllable men. The moment you withdraw reaction, you interrupt the pattern, and interruption creates psychological instability. This is the core mechanism. People feel safe when they can anticipate you. They feel threatened when they cannot. When someone provokes you and you respond with intensity, they feel power. They influenced you. They moved you. They confirmed your emotional accessibility. But when they provoke you and meet stillness, no escalation, no justification, no visible emotional shift, something shifts internally. Their mind begins searching. Did he not care? Did that not affect him? What is he thinking? Did I miscalculate? Your silence forces them into cognitive labor. The average man tries to control outcomes through speech. The strategist controls outcomes through uncertainty. Understand the hierarchy of reactions. Emotion, explanation, defense, apology. That is the descending ladder of power. Silence sits above it, because silence denies others emotional feedback. Most manipulation relies on reaction, teasing, accusations, subtle disrespect, guilt. These tactics require engagement to function. Without engagement, they collapse. If someone insults you and you rush to respond, you validate the insult as worthy of attention. If someone accuses you and you over-explain, you legitimize their authority to question you. Silence removes oxygen from the fire. But here is where most men fail. They attempt silence while internally boiling. Their face twitches, their posture tightens, their eyes betray agitation. That is not controlled silence. That is suppressed weakness. True silence is composure, calm breath, neutral expression, minimal eye movement, no urgency, no rush to fill space. The room feels it. Silence becomes heavy. People begin speaking more than they planned. They reveal information. They justify themselves without being asked. They attempt to reassert balance. And in doing so, they expose position. Silence creates a vacuum. And humans cannot tolerate vacuums. In negotiations, the first person to break silence often concedes ground. In conflict, the first to emotionally escalate often loses leverage. In relationships, the one who needs reassurance more often sacrifices position. This is not about being cold for performance. It is about understanding emotional economy. Every reaction costs status. Every pause accumulates it. You must understand the biological layer of this dynamic. When tension rises and you remain calm, the other person's nervous system spikes. Heart rate increases. Adrenaline shifts. They search for cues. If none are given, their brain works harder to interpret you. The one working harder psychologically is already losing energy. Silence forces the other person into overextension. They will talk more, reveal more, sometimes confess more, because discomfort demands relief. Most men try to win arguments. Strategists win positioning. There is another layer, reputation. If you become known as someone who does not react easily, people self-censor around you. They choose words more carefully. They hesitate before testing boundaries. Not because you threatened them, because you are unreadable. Unreadable men are dangerous. Danger is not loud. It is controlled. The loud man broadcasts intention. The silent man withholds it. And when intention is withheld, others hesitate. Hesitation is advantage. But do not mistake this tactic for weakness disguised as withdrawal. Silence used out of fear lowers status. Silence used deliberately raises it. The difference is internal posture. If you are silent because you feel inferior, your body leaks submission. If you are silent because you are evaluating, your body communicates dominance. Silence must be paired with stillness. Stillness must be paired with certainty. When someone challenges you and you say nothing, just hold eye contact for a moment longer than socially comfortable. You are communicating a message without words. I am not moved by you. That message destabilizes more than any argument ever could. Because arguments are mutual engagement. Silence is There are three types of men in every hierarchy: the loud, the reactive, and the invisible predator. Most men rotate between the first two. The loud man believes volume equals authority. He fills space compulsively. He narrates his thoughts. He declares intentions. He performs dominance through sound. He is easy to read. His ego leaks through every sentence. His insecurity hides behind over-explanation. He mistakes expression for strength. He thinks he is leading the room. He is actually exposing his nervous system. The reactive man is quieter but just as predictable. He does not initiate chaos, but he responds to it. Every criticism hooks him. Every slight triggers him. Every emotional shift pulls him. He believes he is defending himself. In reality, he is advertising control over him. Both archetypes share the same weakness. They need acknowledgement. The loud man needs validation through attention. The reactive man needs validation through correction. Neither can tolerate being ignored. Now observe the third archetype. He speaks less than necessary, reacts slower than expected, moves with deliberate economy. He does not rush to answer. He does not rush to defend. He does not rush to reveal. And because of that, people project onto him. Projection is power. When you are silent, others fill the gap with their own assumptions. They imagine your thoughts. They guess your intentions. They overestimate your awareness. The less you show, the more they speculate. And speculation magnifies perceived authority. This is why in every room, the man who speaks last often holds weight. He listens. He observes alliances. He watches who seeks approval. He maps insecurity. By the time he speaks, he is not reacting, he is concluding. The loud man tries to dominate conversation. The predator dominates interpretation. Here is what most men misunderstand. Power is not control over people. It is control over perception. When you speak excessively, you surrender perception. You narrow how others see you. You define yourself prematurely. But when you restrict access, words, reactions, emotional displays, you widen perception. You become dimensional. Ambiguity creates gravity. Consider interrogations. The suspect who talks excessively gives leverage. Contradictions emerge. Emotional tells surface. Narrative shifts appear. The one who answers minimally forces the interrogator to work. In social hierarchies, the same rule applies. The loud man burns through psychological currency quickly. His stories, his anger, his excitement, they are all signals. Signals reveal patterns. Patterns create predictability. Predictability invites manipulation. The reactive man is even easier. Insult him slightly and he explains himself. Challenge him subtly and he escalates. Withdraw attention and he chases. He is programmable, but the silent predator. He listens more than he speaks. When insulted, he stares, brief, unblinking, then disengages. When challenged, he responds selectively or not at all. He makes others wonder if they miscalculated. That wondering creates hesitation. Hesitation is submission in slow motion. Notice something else. The loud man feels powerful during the interaction. The silent man controls the aftermath. After the room clears, people replay the silent man's expressions. They analyze what he meant. They try to decode him. The loud man is forgotten quickly. The silent one lingers psychologically. And lingering presence is dominance. You must understand something uncomfortable. Most men speak because they fear invisibility. They believe silence equals insignificance. That belief is backward. Insignificance is being ignored. Silence is choosing not to engage. One is rejection. The other is restraint. Restraint implies capability. When you could react but choose not to, you imply power. When you must react, you display weakness. There is a reason kings historically spoke through others. Announcements, decrees, messengers. Distance created mystique. Mystique protected authority. If a king argued personally with every critic, he would shrink into commonality. Authority requires insulation. Silence is insulation. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be understood. You are here to maintain position. The loud man fights for attention. The reactive man fights for validation. The silent predator fights for neither. He lets others reveal themselves. And in revelation, weakness surfaces. The room does not fear the loudest voice. It fears the calm one that cannot be measured. Because what cannot be measured cannot be safely attacked. Most men cannot tolerate this archetype because it requires ego starvation. You must be willing to let misunderstandings stand, to let accusations hang, to let others speak nonsense without correcting them. Why? Because correction is investment. History does not remember the loudest men. It remembers the patient ones. The loud conqueror charges first. The disciplined one waits until the battlefield exposes itself. Noise feels powerful in the moment. It creates adrenaline. It gives the illusion of movement. But history is not written by adrenaline. It is written by positioning. Look at every political purge, every corporate takeover, every silent coup. The man who survives is rarely the one who argued publicly. He is the one who observed quietly while others exposed their alliances. The loud men reveal their loyalties too early. The reactive men reveal their fears too quickly. And fear is currency. When you react emotionally, you reveal what you cannot afford to lose. Reputation, approval, status, a relationship, a narrative. Once that weakness is visible, you can be steered. Silence prevents steering. In ancient courts, advisors did not survive by brilliance alone. They survived by restraint. Kings were paranoid. Power structures were fragile. One misplaced comment could end a career or a life. The men who endured mastered selective speech. They learned when to withhold opinion, when to nod without agreeing, when to observe betrayal forming, without announcing it. Why? Because announcing betrayal forces confrontation, and confrontation forces exposure. Exposure invites risk. Silence allows information to mature. Think about war strategy. The general who broadcasts intentions loses advantage. The one who moves quietly shapes terrain before the enemy notices. Quiet victory is not dramatic, it is surgical. By the time the opposition realizes what happened, the structure has already shifted. In modern environments, offices, social circles, relationships, the battlefield is psychological. Arguments are traps. When someone provokes you, they are not seeking truth. They are seeking reaction, a raised voice, a defensive explanation, an emotional spike. That spike feeds them. Once you react, you are no longer the strategist. You are a participant. Participants lose over. They believe silence equals surrender. They think if they do not defend themselves instantly, they lose status. But status is not preserved through speed. It is preserved through composure. The man who defends himself aggressively often lowers himself to the level of the accuser. He validates the attack. Silence forces the attacker to question their move. Was it too much? Did it land? Did I miscalculate? Doubt is destabilizing. You want doubt in your opponent, not certainty. Certainty fuels confidence. Doubt fractures it. The loud man gives certainty. The silent man gives doubt. In revolutions, the visible agitators are usually eliminated first. The architects behind them remain untouched because they did not expose themselves prematurely. You must understand something uncomfortable about human nature. People respect emotional control more than emotional honesty. They may praise vulnerability publicly. They may preach openness. But when tension rises, they instinctively submit to the calmest nervous system in the room. Control signals capacity. If you cannot control your voice, your timing, your reaction, why would anyone believe you can control outcomes? The loud man burns energy outward. The silent strategist accumulates energy inward. Accumulated energy becomes leverage, and leverage does not shout. It applies pressure quietly. Quiet victory feels almost anticlimactic. There is no dramatic confrontation, no explosive climax, just gradual repositioning, access revoked, influence reallocated. Decisions made without consultation. By the time others notice the shift, they are already outside it. That is victory without spectacle. Most men crave spectacle. They want to win visibly, to be seen dominating, to receive acknowledgement. But spectacle creates records. Records create vulnerabilities. The disciplined man wins without witnesses. He allows others to believe circumstances changed, that luck intervened, that outcomes were natural. He does not need credit. Credit invites scrutiny. Scrutiny invites resistance. History is ruthless with men who overexpose themselves. Empires have fallen. Understanding silence is intellectual. Applying it is strategic. Most men admire restraint in theory and abandon it in practice. The moment tension rises, their nervous system overrides their discipline. Weaponized restraint requires training. First principle, delay response. When confronted, questioned, insulted, or provoked, do not respond immediately. Time is leverage. The faster you answer, the more reactive you appear. The slower you respond, the more intentional you appear. Even a 3-second pause alters hierarchy. The pause communicates evaluation. It says, I am deciding if this deserves my energy. Second principle, reduce verbal volume. The more you speak, the more material you provide for interpretation. Every additional sentence is another opportunity to reveal insecurity, justify yourself, or overcommit. Short responses signal sufficiency. Long defenses signal fear of misjudgment. If accused unfairly, resist the impulse to explain fully. A calm, measured response followed by disengagement is stronger than a passionate defense. Remember, over-explaining is subconscious status negotiation. You are asking to be understood. Authority does not ask. Third principle, eliminate emotional leakage. Control facial micro-reactions. Control posture shifts. Control tone fluctuation. Emotional volatility signals internal instability. When you remain visually composed under pressure, you become difficult to read. Unreadable men are rarely targeted repeatedly. Why? Because predators seek visible weakness. In social hierarchies, many provocations are subconscious dominance tests. Someone challenges your idea. When you stop explaining yourself constantly, people begin filling the silence with their own assumptions. Silence creates projection, and projection often amplifies perceived competence. If you do not react to criticism, observers assume confidence. If you do not chase validation, observers assume self-sufficiency. Scarcity increases perceived value. Availability decreases it. Weaponized restraint also protects long-term leverage. If you reveal every thought, you have nothing left to surprise with. If you disclose every strategy, you cannot. Reposition quietly. Silence preserves optionality. Optionality is power. Men who speak too freely corner themselves into consistency traps. They must defend past statements, maintain public positions, uphold identities they no longer benefit from. The silent strategist evolves without announcement. He adjusts privately, and when he moves, it appears decisive. Now consider the social cost. Initially, people may misinterpret your silence as distance, as coldness, as ego. Accept it. Short-term misunderstanding is cheaper than long-term exposure. You are not responsible for managing everyone's emotional comfort. You are responsible for managing your strategic position. Weaponized restraint also changes how you consume information. Instead of responding instantly in arguments, you observe patterns. Who interrupts? Who seeks validation? Who tests boundaries repeatedly? Observation replaces reaction. Reaction is emotional expenditure. Observation is intelligence accumulation. Over time, this compounds. You begin seeing dynamics before they unfold. You detect insecurity. Now the question becomes uncomfortable. Are you capable of restraining your ego long enough to build silent leverage? Or do you need the emotional release of being heard? That answer determines whether silence becomes your weapon or your missed opportunity. This is where most men hesitate. They understand silence intellectually. They apply it briefly, but they never allow it to alter their identity. Because silence, when executed properly, kills something. It kills the reactive man. And the reactive man is addicted to visibility. He needs to be heard, needs to be understood, needs to correct every misinterpretation, needs to defend every accusation, needs to win every argument. He equates expression with existence. If he's not speaking, he feels invisible. If he's not responding, he feels weak. If he is not explaining, he feels misunderstood. That is not strength. That is dependency on external validation. The reactive man believes power comes from asserting himself loudly. The sovereign operator understands power comes from controlling himself completely. This is not a behavioral tweak. It is an identity execution. You must abandon the belief that you are responsible for managing how others perceive you. You are not. You are responsible for managing your decisions. When the reactive identity dies, a vacuum appears. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You feel the urge to clarify something someone said. You feel the urge to correct a false assumption. You feel the urge to re-enter a conversation you walked away from, but you don't. You observe the urge, and you let it pass. That moment, when you feel the impulse and refuse to obey it, is the birth of sovereignty. Sovereignty is not dominance over others. It is dominance over your own impulses. Most men cannot tolerate internal silence. They fill it with noise, scrolling, talking, arguing, debating, performing. They cannot sit inside unanswered tension, but tension is a forge. When you do now understand the transformation clearly, the reactive man seeks immediate resolution. The sovereign operator seeks long-term leverage. Immediate resolution feels good. It gives closure. It satisfies ego. But long-term leverage often requires enduring short-term ambiguity. You allow others to miscalculate you. You allow silence to distort perception in your favor. You allow time to reposition you without announcement. This is advanced self-control, and self-control separates hierarchy levels more than talent ever will. The reactive man explains himself constantly because he fears exclusion. The sovereign operator knows exclusion filters weakness. When you stop defending yourself compulsively, two groups separate. Those who required your emotional engagement to feel comfortable will drift away. Those who respect composure will adjust upward. Silence becomes a sorting mechanism. Now consider the internal replacement. If the reactive identity dies, what replaces it? Precision, selective speech, selective engagement, selective visibility. You do not attend every argument. You do not respond to every message immediately. You do not expose every strategy. You operate from containment. Containment creates density. Density creates gravity. People begin leaning toward you instead of you leaning toward them, because you are no longer energetically chasing equilibrium. You are stable, and stability in chaotic environments looks like leadership. But this transformation requires sacrifice. You will be misunderstood more often. You will not always correct false narratives. You will not always win social applause. You will not always feel included. Good. Inclusion is not the objective. Position is. The sovereign operator does not fear being misread. He fears being predictable. Predictability invites manipulation. Uncertainty invites caution. Caution creates distance. Distance preserves authority. This is the final inversion. Exposure builds vulnerability. Vulnerability builds leverage for someone else. Silence, when disciplined, protects leverage, and leverage determines outcomes. The identity shift is simple in theory and brutal in execution. Stop reacting. Start evaluating. Stop explaining. Start observing. Stop defending. Start positioning. This is not about becoming antisocial. It is about becoming strategically unavailable. Unavailable to drama. Unavailable to provocation. Unavailable to emotional traps. Available only to objectives. When this shift locks in, something changes in how people approach you. They measure their words more carefully. They test you less frequently. They speak more deliberately, not because you demanded respect, but because your restraint implies consequence. Consequence does not need to be loud. It needs to be felt. And restraint makes it felt. This is the birth of the sovereign operator. Not loud, not performative, not reactive, measured, controlled, unmoved. And in a world addicted to emotional expression, that composure looks dangerous. Now understand the irreversible part. Once you experience the leverage silence provides, you cannot return to compulsive reaction. You will see arguments as traps. You will see provocations as probes. You will see emotional volatility as self-exposure, and you will refuse to participate. The reactive man dies. The sovereign operator remains. The only question left is whether you are willing to endure the isolation. Do not misunderstand what you've just learned. Silence is not peace. It is positioning. Most men who attempt silence use it as avoidance. They withdraw because they are hurt. They stop speaking because they are offended. They go quiet because they feel defeated. That is not strategy. That is retreat disguised as discipline. Strategic silence is not emotional shutdown. It is emotional containment. There is a difference. Retreat gives the other side confidence. Containment creates uncertainty, and uncertainty shifts power. Here is the final warning. If you use silence passively, you become irrelevant. If you use silence deliberately, you become calculated. Calculated men are treated differently. They are approached cautiously. They are tested carefully. They are underestimated at a cost. The world does not fear loud men. It studies quiet ones. Because noise reveals intention, silence obscures it. And obscured intention forces others to move blindly. Blind movement produces mistakes. Mistakes produce leverage. This is the architecture of quiet victory. Victory does not always look dramatic. It often looks like you saying nothing while others overextend themselves. It looks like you declining to react while others escalate. It looks like you observing patterns while others expose weaknesses. Most men sabotage themselves with over-communication. They reveal plans too early. They express emotions too quickly. They argue positions unnecessarily. They clarify strategies prematurely. They leak advantage through words. You will not. You will operate on a different timeline. Slower responses, measured statements, intentional ambiguity. Not to manipulate recklessly, but to prevent being manipulated. This is the elite trade. You sacrifice immediate validation for long-term authority. You sacrifice applause for influence. You sacrifice emotional release for structural dominance. And yes, there is a cost. You will feel detached at times. You will feel separate from social momentum. You will feel like you are observing instead of participating. That is because you are no longer competing for attention. You are competing for position. Attention is loud. Position is quiet. Attention fades. Position compounds. The masses chase recognition. Operators build leverage. Now understand the brutal filter. Silence exposes insecurity. If you cannot tolerate being misinterpreted, you will speak too soon. If you cannot tolerate tension, you will react too fast. If you cannot tolerate exclusion, you will over-engage. Your inability to stay silent will reveal your internal weakness. Silence is not for fragile egos. It is for disciplined minds. Because silence forces you to confront yourself without distraction, without applause, without argument. And many men fear that confrontation more than they fear losing power. That is why most will never master this tactic. They will continue debating online, continue explaining themselves to people beneath their level, continue reacting to minor provocations, continue leaking status through emotional display. You will not. You now understand something dangerous. The man who controls his words controls his image. The man who controls his reactions controls his environment. The man who controls his silence controls perception. And perception directs hierarchy. This is not about becoming cold for the sake of ego. It is about refusing to give or remain silent to embody it. The strategy of silence is not about disappearing. It is about concentrating, reducing noise, compressing presence, becoming dense enough that your few words carry weight. And when you finally speak, it is decisive, not emotional, not reactive, not defensive. Decisive, that is quiet victory. Not applause, not spectacle, outcome. Most men will ignore this. They will continue chasing visibility. You will operate in shadows, and shadows are where structure is built. You are not here for comfort. You are here for control. Silence is the test. If you can hold it, you will not need to announce your rise. It will be observed, and by the time others notice, it will already be too late to compete.